Hello, everyone. Kevin O'Shaughnessy, Schooley Mitchell Red Bank. I'm back with another installment of my ongoing series I like to call Spotlight on Local Business. With me today is Ainsley Maloney from Cleanbooks for Creatives, a business she originally started to really work with designers. But I understand you've sort of expanded on that now and you take all types of clients.
Yep, I've expanded to a lot of different industries.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. So why don't you give me a little bit of your background, though? Tell me, why you started this business, how you started, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I actually ended up, I graduated college with a degree in journalism, and then I got a master's degree in counseling. So I have a varied background that is not involved with accounting at all. But I actually ended up, when I was working at a university doing employer relations, which was one of my most recent jobs, I was working a lot with designers and actually helping them hire our students. So I was helping them get scheduled for interviews with our students and kind of just trying to get them organized. So I'd be talking to designers who, of course, are busy during the day doing everything but hiring. They're actually doing the designs, working with clients. They're super busy. And they would always say, I love how, you just kind of handle everything. You keep me organized. You keep me on track. You make everything easy. And that was kind of the feedback that I kept getting from designers, was that I make everything easier for them by handling the whole hiring process. So around the same time, my sister, who's also a creative type, so she works as a wedding planner, she was looking for help or complaining that her books were just a total mess. And she's like, I can't sit down and do it. Every time I sit down to do it, I just want to close my laptop. It makes me so sad, because it's just not their skill set. It's not what they want to be doing with their time. So I took a look at it and I was like, oh, this is basically just Excel. And I'm in Excel all day, because a lot of my scheduling with the hiring was working with Excel and getting people scheduled. So I was like, this is just Excel. It kind of works with my brain. I think I can pick it up and learn it. So I started to do her books and I picked it up fairly quickly. I really enjoyed it. I really like organizing information. And I saw how much just her peace of mind, was just, she was so relieved to get that off her plate. And so from there, after doing her book, she just started kind of saying, oh, hey, to her vendor friends, oh, my sister does my books, you should talk to her. And then all of a sudden I started getting her vendor friends in the wedding industry calling to see if I could do their books. And so while I had my full-time job, I started doing other people's books on the side. And then of course I was like, oh no, I need to get an LLC and actually make this all official, because I'm now doing many more people than just my family. So I ended up getting my LLC in 2019, and I was doing both for a while. And it was actually working out great because I was able to do it in the mornings, weekends, nights, and I had a fairly 9-to-5 schedule. So I was really able to fit it in well. And then when the pandemic hit, everyone realized that in order to get any loans, any grants, PPP, they needed a profit and loss they needed their statements ready and up to date. And anyone who did not have that was at kind of a gridlock, right? They couldn't move forward. They couldn't apply for these things. So at that point, I just got a lot more of inquiries and a lot more of, friends of friends or my clients' friends kind of coming to me saying, can you help me? My books are not in order. I can't get these PPP loans. I can't apply for anything. So around that time, while, I was working from home, I was also starting to build up my client base and helping really, again, clients in now a variety of industries to clean up their books and even do some quick turnaround cleanup. So whether it's, I can get in, their books are totally a mess, I can kind of whip them back into shape and then train them on how to carry on their books moving forward. Or whether it's now I manage their books month to month. So I kind of offer either of those services. But I realized that I really loved it. And during the pandemic, I was able to really honestly meet one-on-one over Zoom with my clients a lot more, because I was available during the day to kind of jump on a Zoom. And I learned that my clients really like to, have those meetings and be kind of face-to-face, but be face-to-face with me, talk things through. And of course, using my counseling background, I can sort of talk to people in a little bit, maybe more of a empathetic way, right? So my whole approach is that I want to make sure that my client feels comfortable. They're sharing a lot of personal financial information with me. So I really enjoyed the one-on-ones with my clients as well. And so then I realized, I really could take this full time. I'm doing a lot of the same things I was doing with my job, where I was working with designers and creative folks, helping them organize their life. It was just in QuickBooks rather than in the hiring part of the business. So I just left my job in February, so now I'm doing it full time and I'm loving it.
I have to say, I didn't really expect this very circuitous route to to bookkeeping.
I know.
But I could certainly see how the counseling background could help, right? Because like you said, especially then during COVID, what broke out. I know a lot of people, like you say, started to panic. Hey, there's government money out there. How do I keep myself afloat? So being able to work with them on, and smart with the numbers, as well as kind of help them through that emotional time is probably very key for you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, well, I mean, being a small business owner now myself, I mean, I can really understand the need for your business. But I think over the years, a lot of entrepreneurs, the biggest problem they had was to relinquish some control, right? They always wanted to control everything. But at some point, we all need to admit we need a little bit of help. You don't want to be that guy who shows up with the shoebox full of receipts on April 14th, at their CPA's office, right? So that's where, you come in, like say the Cleanbooks idea of things. So I'd imagine it'd be a good idea for you to sort of partner with other accountants or CPAs. So, what would you say to those types of professionals on why they should partner with you? What are you bringing to the table there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have really strong partnerships with a few CPAs and also business coaches. And when you get, myself, a CPA and a business coach together with the client, it's kind of like the dream team because I can make sure that the client's books are actually accurate, are in the right categories so that when they then bring it to the CPA can then take their wealth of knowledge and actually then make those choices for them that are based on accurate data. The business coach can make some suggestions on where they can make changes in their business and know that they're looking at data that's accurate. So, and even data that is now bringing that information to life, right? Because if you just categorize everything in one mass category, and now office supplies is $20,000, you're not actually going to figure out, well, where am I spending the most money? Is it in subscriptions? Is it in, marketing? If you just are grouping everything into one mass category, you're not actually getting those insights that you might need for your business. So I work with a lot of my clients to really think about what are the main buckets or insights that you really need to get from your business? What are even comparisons that you want to make between what you're spending and then what income line you're making from that particular sale, so that we know that it's tying out, that you're actually recouping some of those expenses. So it's not, a lot of my clients don't just have one bucket of income, right? They have a lot of different income streams. And making sure that we're really splitting that out helps us to see where their business is making the most of an impact, where they could focus even more to make even more money, even, a lot of my clients will sort of tag things by even greater levels of data, such as income by store. There's classes or location tracking. So we'll look at different things like income by what artist they might be. I actually have a PR person who represents different artists. So we're tracking everything by what artist she's representing. So it's things like that now she can pull a report and see which of my artists is doing the best, right? Which of my artists is bringing us in the most money. And it's those types of insights that then again, she can bring to a business coach or a CPA and say, hey, now what can I do with this wealth of information that we've put together? So it's clean data in gets much better insights out. But if you're not putting that clean data in, you are just working in a fog of, I don't know what exactly to do. You're going more on feeling and emotion. So I help business owners go more on facts and go more on information. And that's kind of the key to where I step in, is to get that information clean so that they can go on facts and not just feeling.
Oh, that's a lot more than I thought, honestly. When I just think of bookkeeping, I would have just thought really about the numbers, but it is important to think, especially to focus, if something is doing a little better than another aspect of your business, makes sense to focus on that. But also you want to know if something's not doing as well, do I abandon it? Do I leave it? Or do I throw more resources at it and bring it back to life? So, but so having said that, so with the client, is there a certain level of service that they need to sign up for? Or do you run the gamut of, hey, just an hour a week all the way up to full-time stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mostly focus on clients who need me to get in for month-end cleanup. So, Usually my clients don't need me weekly. Like my clients don't really need me for 10 hours a week, for example. Usually they're doing a lot of the invoicing on their own, or they have an admin there who's doing a lot of like the inputting of invoicing and or they might still be writing checks and getting checks sent out. So they don't really need me week to week. But what they do need is for me to get in at the end of the month to make sure that everything's categorized correctly. If we're doing it by project or by location or something a little bit of a deeper level, we might use a software like HubDoc, where they'll send their receipts to HubDoc and I'll be able to see how that receipt needs to be categorized. So I'll make sure that it's categorized according to that project. So then they can pull like a profit and loss and see like, was that project profitable or not? Do I need to raise my rates or keep them as is? So really, as long as I'm getting all of the data and information, they're not really expecting to pull or see their full reports till the end of the month. So then I'll get in, do that. I'll do the reconciliation. And a lot of people don't really pay attention to that. But the benefit of having somebody come in every month and reconcile is that I've worked with clients who have not reconciled all year, for example, and they don't know what they're missing. They might plug in a payment and think that they've got that payment. Someone says the check's on the way. They plug in that the payment's there, but the check never arrived. And they don't know because they didn't reconcile it to the bank. So they may not know that they never ended up cashing that check. So, it's things like that, that the only way that you can catch bigger mistakes is by checking it and confirming with your bank that the thing that you said that you received, you actually received. And that's kind of where I come in. So I can say, hey, it's the end of the month, your books are actually accurate. So when you go to pull your profit and loss, all of that money to the penny did flow through your bank, and I've confirmed that.
Wow. No, that's huge. I mean, for a business, that's huge. I do have to admit, on a personal level, I have actually never reconciled my checking account ever. It just seemed like too much to do, and you just kind of give it the once over. But I'm, on a business level, that's not acceptable. I mean, you have to do something a little better. So, and
it's really hard to get the motivation when you're doing your job all day, and that's sort of where I can come in. And to even better answer your question is that, I will go in and reconcile at the end of the month, but I do have different packages because some of my clients just want me to kind of get in, clean everything up, reconcile, and they don't really, maybe they understand their reports well enough that they don't really need to meet with me once a month or even every quarter. They're kind of like, I've got this. I just want to make sure for peace of mind that everything's cleaned up. And then I have some clients who they're not great with their reports and numbers. They kind of avoid it. They don't like looking at it. So we'll have much more frequent check-ins where, and one of the things that I found, especially with designers and creative folks, is that, if you open their profit and loss with them and start mentioning things like percentages, the cost of goods sold, gross profit, they just like check out. They do not care. They're like, that means nothing to me. So instead, I try to go in and talk to them more about how the reports are telling the story of their business. So I'll talk to them more about the fact that, let me just let you know that this marketing, this month marketing ate about 50% of what you made. How do you feel about that? And if they're like, oh, that's fine. Like I just bought a whole new marketing, ad package, and I really want to, lean into it, and I really want to get more sales in, then that might be fine. So I point out those things so that they can then tell me the story about it behind their business. And so then we have more of a conversation about it. And sometimes I'll also go in and say, I'll try to identify like 3 quick wins that they can kind of go right to those expenses to cut costs. So sometimes our meeting will be around, all right, what are 3 quick wins, things that you can change today that you can save money on? So whether that's, hey, you have a lot of clients who are paying via credit card. Can we try to get them all more toward ACH transfer, which is 1% instead of 3? Now you can already save this much money per month because that's eating up a lot of your income right now. So I'll kind of break it down so that it's more digestible. Because if you pull your profit and loss and you see all these numbers, you're just like, I don't even know what to look at. But if you hear about the 3 areas that you can make the most immediate impact, now you have something to focus on. Now you have some clarity around where to start. And as you probably know, overwhelm as a small business owner, you're focused on everything. You're focused on your business, on networking, on social media, on a variety of areas.
No, I mean, your role seems to be taking on more of almost outsourced CFO than just bookkeeper. I have to, there's a lot more to it. So, and I know you mentioned it earlier a little bit, sort of the joke of the dream team. Do you often sit down, honestly, with the CPA and the client together, and possibly that happens a lot?
Yeah, I have a really great relationship with Engaged CPAs, is one of the best firms around, I have to say. They're an accounting firm, and they're absolutely incredible. They're the type of they have a lot of more like consultative services and advisory services with clients. So they're not just doing their taxes, they're advising the clients, they're projecting, they're doing a lot with the data. So having me be able to bring them the clean data literally gives them a world of, they can go off in so many different directions with where they take that call with the client. And sometimes I am there to sort of be that bridge between, hey, here's what the client and I talked about. And I'm almost like translating to each other, like the words that we're all using to make sure that the client knows, like when we're talking about certain things. Again, it's sort of the language, right? Like CPAs are very used to talking in language that sometimes clients, it just doesn't resonate with them. So sometimes I'll kind of be there to just honestly like convey to the CPA what the client was really worried about or what the client wanted to discuss. I don't always have to do that, because certainly the CPAs always have good relationships with the client and kind of can dive right in. But when needed, I'll be there to I'll be there to even clarify a little bit more on, hey, we've been tracking this one metric pretty closely. Should we do it differently? Is there anything that you want us to change? Or are we not tracking something that we should be? Mm-hmm. So like together, the accountant is always giving me feedback on what I should be doing. And then that way I can bring the better data to them so that they can then make the really good recommendations for the clients. So it really does become a great relationship in terms of the way that when you get all of those people together in the room, the client feels so much more clarity, control, all those things around their business. And that's ultimately my goal, is to help the client. And you had even mentioned control. It's so interesting, because I do feel like in working with the bookkeeper and a CPA together, the client gains so much more control over their books, so much more control over their business, so much more clarity around what they want to be doing and where they want to be moving forward. So they truly don't lose control. They actually gain much more understanding over their finances.
That, I think, is the most important part right there. I think, like you said, when you start off, especially when you're talking about a smaller business entrepreneur who sort of says, I don't need that. I have it under control. I know where things are. And then, surprisingly, you show them that spreadsheet, you put together a little presentation, all of a sudden they see the light, which is,
exactly.
Which is nice. So now moving forward, hopefully as we come out of this pandemic and otherwise, what do you see as the challenges, for these businesses going forward? Are there accounting changes maybe they need to worry about, or is it more focused like you're doing? Do they all really need to drill down deeper into all those little costs areas and all those little income streams? Well, what would you recommend for people? What are the challenges coming up?
So that's a great question. I think one of the recommendations, I'm going to say, would be to have a bookkeeper, because I think that one thing I've learned, and this is just to be completely honest, is that if you don't have someone like a bookkeeper, even just checking in on it quarterly, like I'm not necessarily even saying everyone needs it monthly, but if you, when I've gotten into people's books who are managing their books on their own and doing it just fine, I get in there and I'm like, this is not correct. Or yes, you may have thought that everything was being auto categorized and these rules in QuickBooks were just handling things, but they're all going into the wrong place, even to the point that they're not even on your profit and loss. They're like getting funneled to this like uncategorized asset on your balance sheet, which is a totally different data set. So like you might be missing things, you might be missing expenses. So to me, it's like, what's the point of putting all of that data in if it's not correct? Then when you go to pull that report, you really don't know where you stand. You're going off of false information and false assumptions. So really what I've learned through this is that honestly, a lot of people that thought that their books were clean and they were doing everything right, a lot of them were not. So that was eye-opening for me, because it made me realize how much like people don't know that they're not doing it right, or they trust the software, right? They're like hoping that like, okay, I'm plugging it all in the way they suggest, so it's good, right? It's like, no, it's software. It's going to think that certain things And for example, we actually had a client where they actually got a loan or a grant for the same amount that they had an invoice, and it just matched to that invoice and sent that off. Well, this whole time then they were missing that money because the client never paid the invoice. This loan or this grant was matched to the invoice accidentally. So they're missing all this money, and that amount of money isn't in the right place on their profit and loss. So like the whole thing breaks down, when you don't have someone checking it. So I definitely think that's part of it. And then also, certainly I have some clients who, I actually have one who opened 2 months before COVID hit. And ultimately, no idea how successful so much potential for her business to just be a complete, she's a rock star and she's awesome. And it's like, she hasn't had the opportunity yet to see how her business is going to do when it's fully open. People can come in without masks. She has a salon, so they can't come, it's very affected by COVID. So I'm excited, honestly, to see how those businesses can do when they don't have those barriers in the way, because it's been really hard to kind of sort through how would my business be doing without this. You really don't know. It's almost impossible to be able to say that, because this has had such a major impact on every business. And I've had some other clients who've come out of it actually a little bit better. And everybody hates to say that, because no one would wish that this had happened. But I have some clients who it's made them reassess their priorities, reassess what they want to be focusing on. And so they've kind of almost revamped their business to focus maybe solely on one area instead of two. So it has led to some positive. So I would say that in a way, it's really helped people clarify their priorities. I think a lot of us, with just working from home or maybe slowing down for a moment and reflecting, it's helped people to think, what do I really want my business to be? What do I really want my business to feel like day to day in my life?
I think you bring up a good point there, though. As we come, hopefully again, as we come out of this pandemic and otherwise, it'd be very smart for people, even if they're not using a bookkeeper all the time or they need it, just to even get that another set of eyes on things, to say, okay, as I do ramp up, I want to be as lean and mean as I can. So when things are getting better, I'm really going to flourish. If you want to stay positive. So I think that's a key takeaway for today, is even if people aren't doing it, monthly or otherwise, perhaps like you say, quarterly or semi-annually, have someone take a look and make sure you're in the right place.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But all right. So, but not to switch gears on you completely, but what about Ainsley, the person? What does she do for any fun or, things? I know this past year has been tough, but what are your interests?
Past year has been tough. And normally, honestly, my husband and I would be at breweries every day that we could be at breweries. We love exploring new breweries, new beer. We'll take vacations just to do brewery tours. So Asheville, North Carolina was a big stop for us, because they have 50 breweries in one town and, in one city, and you can walk everywhere. We love hiking. We love being outdoors, and we actually take walks together almost every night around Manayunk. So we're definitely big walkers. That's kind of how we talk, get the day out, sort of process what happened that day. And I personally will read every book I can get my hands on. I'm a huge reader, mostly nonfiction, but I read constantly, and I'm always listening to audiobooks. So between honestly just reading, hiking, and drinking, those are things I spend most of my time doing.
I think everybody's recycling bin's been a little heavier over this past several months, but we've been doing the same thing.
We got so much beer delivered from Levante that it was like a problem. This van would drive up and just deliver, cases of beer every week. It was so good. All the breweries that were starting to deliver, we were so excited about it. So
I hear you. Yeah, well, I've been doing the same. We live near the beach, so we've been trying to take those walks, like you say, just even if it's cold out, you put on the heavy coat, you get out there, you do what you can. But
definitely. You don't feel as trapped, you don't feel as cooped up when you do that. And once you start walking, you get hot. You're like, oh man, I put on all these layers, and now I'm 20 minutes in and it's hot out.
Exactly. So it's fun. Exactly. And you get that stress of the day out. You get that stress from sitting around. So, but I can really see your passion for it. It really kind of opened my eyes to be honest, starting the conversation thinking, this is probably kind of a boring business.
Yeah.
And actually, from hearing you talk about it and the different aspects, I mean, I can imagine it'd be pretty fulfilling to do. So want to thank you so much for chatting with me today and being part of my ongoing series. And good luck and best of wishes in the new year. And let's hope we're all mask free very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin. This is
all
great.
right. Thank you so much. Take care.